Sarah had almost cancelled 3 times that morning. At 58, she'd convinced herself that blind dates were for younger people, people who still believed in fresh starts. But her sister Emma had been so insistent, so certain that this widowed father named Michael was perfect for her, that Sarah finally gave in. She arrived at the cozy cafe 15 minutes early, her hands trembling slightly as she smoothed down her gray blazer. Through the frosted windows, she could see the first snow of December beginning to fall. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and coffee, reminding her of winters long past. Michael walked in right on time. He was handsome in an understated way, with kind eyes and the sort of gentle demeanor that comes from weathering real storms in life. His brown hair was touched with gray at the temples, and when he smiled, small lines crinkled at the corners of his eyes. They shook hands awkwardly and sat down. The conversation started poorly. Sarah found herself giving clipped answers, her walls firmly in place. Michael seemed distracted, checking his watch twice in the first 20 minutes. There were 2 people going through motions neither truly believed in anymore. Sarah stirred her tea absently, wondering how soon she could politely leave. Michael talked about his work as an architect, but his heart seemed elsewhere. This was a mistake, Sarah thought. She should have trusted her instincts. Then everything changed. But what if that mistake was about to reveal a secret hidden for 41 years? The cafe door opened with a cheerful jingle, and a little girl burst in, her curly blonde hair dusted with snowflakes. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old, wearing a pink coat and white boots. Behind her, a flustered teenage babysitter rushed to keep up, apologizing to other customers. The child's eyes scanned the room with fierce determination until they landed on their table. Her face lit up with pure wonder, as if she just spotted something magical. She walked straight to Sarah, ignoring her father completely. "You're her," the little girl whispered, her voice filled with awe. "You're the lady from Daddy's favorite story." Sarah blinked in confusion. Michael's face had gone pale, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. "Lily, sweetheart," he started. But his daughter was already climbing onto the chair next to Sarah, studying her face with the intense concentration only children possess. "You have kind eyes," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Just like Daddy said, and you're wearing gray like the lady in the story who helped the little boy find his way home when he was lost and scared." The babysitter apologized profusely, her words tumbling out. There had been a mix-up with the pickup time from her friend's house. The playdate had ended early. She'd brought Lily here because it was the address Michael had left for emergencies. Michael looked mortified, starting to rise from his seat. But Sarah found herself smiling for the first time that afternoon. Something about this child's earnest face touched something deep inside her. "What story is this?" she asked gently, leaning closer to Lily. Lily's eyes grew wide with excitement. "Daddy tells it every single night before bed, about when he was 7 years old and got lost at the Christmas market. A nice lady in a gray coat found him crying by the big fountain and stayed with him for 2 whole hours until his parents came. She bought him hot chocolate with extra marshmallows and told him stories so he wouldn't be scared. She sang to him." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Her heart began to pound. "She had a red scarf," Lily continued, pointing at the crimson scarf draped over Sarah's purse. "Just like that one. Daddy remembers everything about her, and she sang him a song about snowflakes being wishes from angels, and how every wish finds its way home eventually." The cafe seemed to grow very quiet around them. Sarah's hands began to shake, but this time not from nervousness. She looked at Michael, really looked at him, searching his face. She saw something flicker in his expression, a recognition that was just beginning to dawn, transforming his features. "What year did this happen?" Sarah asked softly, her voice barely steady. Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "December 1974. I was 7 years old. The Christmas market in Boston near the old pavilion that isn't there anymore." Sarah closed her eyes. The memory came flooding back so vividly she could almost feel the cold air on her face. That frightened little boy with brown hair and tear-streaked cheeks, wearing a blue winter coat that was too big for him, his small body shaking with sobs. She'd been 17, shopping for her mother's birthday present when she found him. "You had a toy soldier," she said quietly, opening her eyes, "in your pocket. You showed it to me and said it was your bravest one, but even brave soldiers got scared sometimes. You told me his name was Captain James." Michael's eyes filled with tears. "You stayed with me," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "You missed your bus home. Your mother was expecting you for dinner. You told me about how stars were really just holes in the floor of heaven, where the light shines through to remind us we're not alone. You made me believe everything would be okay. You promised the snow would help my parents find me because it makes everything bright." Lily looked between them with pure delight, bouncing slightly in her seat. "I knew it was you. I just knew it. Daddy says that lady taught him the most important thing he ever learned, that being kind to strangers is how angels do their work on earth. He says she changed his whole life." Sarah reached across the table and Michael took her hand. 41 years dissolved in an instant. His hand was warm, solid, real. "I never forgot you," Michael said, his thumb gently brushing across her knuckles. "I asked my parents to help me find you for years afterward. We went back to that market every December for 5 years, hoping you'd be there. But we didn't even know your name. You were just this angel who appeared exactly when I needed someone most. That day changed my whole life. It taught me what kind of person I wanted to be, how I wanted to raise my own children someday." "I think about that day sometimes," Sarah admitted, her own eyes growing misty, especially around Christmas. "I wondered if you were okay, if you grew up happy and safe. If you remembered I almost didn't come today. I told them I was too old for this, too old for new beginnings and second chances." Lily reached over and patted Sarah's hand with her small one, her touch gentle and reassuring. "Daddy says you're never too old for angel work. He says angels can be any age." Michael laughed through his tears, wiping his eyes. "My daughter, the philosopher, she gets that from her mother." They talked for 3 more hours as the afternoon light faded to evening. The babysitter stayed, completely charmed by the unfolding story, texting her own mother about the miracles she was witnessing. Sarah learned that Michael's wife, Rebecca, had passed away 2 years earlier from cancer, that he'd raised Lily with the same gentleness and kindness a stranger had once shown him on the worst day of his childhood. Michael learned that Sarah had never married, that she'd spent 40 years as an elementary school teacher, giving to hundreds of children what she'd given to a scared little boy so long ago. She'd touched so many lives, never realizing that one particular life had carried her memory like a candle through the decades. When they finally stood to leave, the snow had blanketed the city in white, transforming everything into something clean and new. Lily held both their hands as they walked slowly to the parking lot, swinging between them. "Will you come to our house for Christmas?" Lily asked Sarah, looking up with hopeful eyes. "Daddy always leaves an empty chair at dinner on Christmas Eve. He says it's for the lady from the story in case she ever finds her way back to us. Every single year." Sarah looked at Michael, who nodded with hope shining in his eyes, vulnerable and open in a way that took her breath away. "I'd like that very much," she said, her heart fuller than it had been in years. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness ripple forward through time in ways we cannot imagine. Sometimes the angels we help along the way turn out to be planting seeds for gardens we'll walk through decades later. And sometimes when we think it's too late for magic, when we've convinced ourselves that our best days are behind us, life proves that love has its own perfect timing. Sarah had thought she was too old for blind dates. What she learned was that she was exactly the right age for miracles. Some stories don't end. They just wait patiently for the next chapter to begin. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below about a moment when kindness came back to you in unexpected ways. Your stories inspire us all.